Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Longing, where today we are going to be continuing to read the Iliad by Homer. So, let's get going. Still flies Achilles, but before his eyes, still swift Scamander rolls where'er he flies. Not all his speed escapes the rapid floods, the first of men, but not a match for gods. Oft as he turned the torrent to oppose, and bravely try if all the powers were foes, so oft the surge in watery mountains spread, beats on his back or bursts upon his head. Yet dauntless still the adverse flood he braves, and still indignant bounds above the waves. Tired by the tides, his knees relax with toil, washed from beneath him slides the slimy soil. When thus his eyes on heaven's expansion thrown, forth bursts the hero with an angry groan. Is there no god Achilles to befriend, no power to avert his miserable end? Prevent, O Jove, this ignominious date, 271, and make my future life the sport of fate. Of all heaven's oracles believed in vain, but most of Thetis must her son complain. By Phoebus' darts she prophesied my fall, in glorious arms before the Trojan wall. Oh, had I died in fields of battle warm, stretched like a hero by a hero's arm, might Hector's spear this dauntless bosom rend, and my swift soul o'ertake my slaughtered friend. Ah no, Achilles meets a shameful fate. Oh, how unworthy of the brave and great! Like some vile swain, whom on a rainy day, crossed a ford, the torrent sweeps away, an unregarded carcass to the sea. Neptune and Pallas haste to his relief, and thus in human form addressed the chief. The power of ocean first, forbear thy fear. O son of Peleus, lo, thy gods appear. Behold from Jove descending to thy aid, propitious Neptune and the blue-eyed maid. Stay, and the furious flood shall cease to rave. 'Tis not thy fate to glut his angry wave. But thou the counsel heaven suggests attend, nor breathe from combat, nor thy sword suspend, till Troy receive her flying sons, till all her routed squadrons pant behind their wall. Hector alone shall stand his fatal chance, and Hector's blood shall smoke upon thy lance. Thine is the glory doomed, thus spake the gods, then swift ascended to the bright abodes. Stung with new ardour, thus by heaven impelled, he springs impetuous and invades the field. O'er all the expanded plain the waters spread, heaved on the bounding billows danced the dead. Floating midst the scattered arms, while casques of gold and turned-up bucklers glittered as they rolled. High o'er the surging tide by leaps and bounds, he wades and mounts, the parted wave resounds. Not a whole river stops the hero's course, while Pallas fills him with immortal force. With equal rage indignant Xanthus roars, and lifts his billows and o'erwhelms his shores. Then thus to Simois haste my brother flood, and check this mortal that controls a god. Our bravest heroes else shall quit the fight, and Ilion tumble from her towery height. Call then thy subject streams and bid them roar, from all thy fountains swell thy watery store. With broken rocks and with a load of dead, charge the black surge and pour it on his head. Mark how resistless through the floods he goes, and boldly bids the warring gods be foes. But nor that force nor form divine to sight shall aught avail him if our rage unite. Whelmed under our dark gulfs those arms shall lie, that blaze so dreadful in each Trojan eye, and deep beneath a sandy mountain hurled, immersed remain this terror of the world. Such ponderous ruin shall confound the place, No Greeks shall e'er his perished relics grace. No hand his bones shall gather or inhume, these his cold rites, and this his watery tomb. Achilles contending with the rivers. He said, and on the chief descends amain, increased with gore, and swelling with the slain. Then murmuring from his beds he boils, he raves and Then murmuring from his beds he boils, he raves, and a foam whitens on the purple waves. At every step before Achilles stood, the crimson surged and deluged him with blood. Fear touched the queen of heaven, she saw dismayed. She called aloud and summoned Vulcan's aid. Rise to the war the insulting flood requires, thy wasteful arm assemble all thy fires. While to their aid, by our command enjoined, rush the swift eastern and the western wind. These from old ocean at my word shall blow, pour the red torrent on the watery foe. Coursers and arms to one bright ruin turn, and hissing rivers to their bottoms burn. Go, mighty, in thy rage display thy power, drink the whole flood, the crackling trees devour. Scorch all the banks until our voice reclaim, exert the unwearied furies of the flame. The power ignipotent her word obeys, wide o'er the plain he pours the boundless blaze. At once consumes the dead and dries the soil, and the shrunk waters in their channel boil. As when autumnal Boreas sweeps the sky, and instant blows the watered gardens dry. So looked the field, so whitened was the ground, while Vulcan breathed the fiery blast around. Swift on the sedgy reeds the ruin preys, along the margin winds the running blaze. The trees in flaming rows to ashes turn, the flowering lotos and the tamarisk burn. Broad elm and cypress rising in a spire, the watery willows hiss before the fire. Now glow the waves, the fishes pant for breath, the eels lie twisting in the pangs of death. Now flounce aloft, now dive the scaly fry, or gasping turn their bellies to the sky. At length the river reared his languid head, and thus short panting to the god he said, O Vulcan, O, what power resists thy might? I faint, I sink, unequal to the fight. I yield, let Ilion fall if fate decree. Ah, bend no more thy fiery arms on me. He ceased, wide conflagration blazing round. The bubbling waters yield a hissing sound, as when the flames beneath a cauldron rise, 272, to melt the fat of some rich sacrifice. Amid the fierce embrace of circling fires, the waters foam, the heavy smoke aspires. So boils the imprisoned flood forbid to flow, and choked with vapours feels his bottom glow. To Juno then, imperial queen of air, the burning river sends his earnest prayer. Ah, why, Saturnia, must thy son engage me, only me, with all his wasteful rage? On other gods his dreadful arm employ, for mightier gods assert the cause of Troy. Submissive I desist if thou command, but withdraw this all-destroying hand. Hear then my solemn oath to yield to fate, unaided Ilion and her destined state, till Greece shall gird her with destructive flame, and in one ruin sink the Trojan name. I just got a sudden head rush there at the end, weirdly. Yeah, bit of a head rush and a yawn. Oh, excuse me. That all just sort of happened at once there. Oof. Anyway, we do come to the end of another episode. Ooh, and I've got a stretch coming on as well. It's all happening this evening. Oof. Excuse me. But yes, anyway, thank you very much for joining today. I hope you all have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon or night. No matter what time of day it is, I hope you all have a wonderful one of it. And as always, we will be back tomorrow for more of The Longing. Goodbye.